Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's X and I'm here back with another video. So, is it time yet? Is it really the time, or is this just one of the stages of it getting to the threshold of a quote unquote cyber pandemic, if I have to say, or something leading into, you know, what we've been expecting for a long time? As you see, just got articles here and I'll go through it as we just dive into it really quick, right? Global Microsoft outage as tech systems down, hospitals disabled, and planes grounded. As now, before I go into it, we've seen if you this is a bit later on, but it was noticed that it was this CrowdStrike update that was pushed through the deployment that was not updated properly and caused a lot of blue screens of death. Normally, a blue screen of death is what happens when sometimes you're updating a computer, especially with Microsoft or Windows 10, Windows 11, or any Windows for that matter. It goes into a blue screen of death, and then you have to revert the PC completely or remove that file, you know. And there's videos that shows how to do that. I'm not going to go into that IT stuff. I do have that background knowledge to explain that, but just for the sake of we're in that IT space, but just to keep it on the cyber topic, as we see the airlines went down, the banks went down, the supermarkets went down, and caused a major outage. And we've seen videos in the past, and this started, just to make notice though, it did start off in the UK, where the World Economic Forum have been talking about a dark winter in the past, talking about dark winter and how these things can play out, right? So, as they say, the Microsoft left thousands of people locked out of the banks, while its plans have been grounded. And you see, uh, not only it's from UK to India, Australia, and the US. So it was for major parts. They're calling it the largest internet outage, but yes, it is. And I thought potentially, this could be the time where we do see the new emerging markets, with R3 Coda and the Ripple software and the liquidity hubs and XRP and XLM and that stuff mm, being put in place, right? And they talk about it. There's a few posts. And then just to get into another article here, not to bore you guys, I'll drop a link if you find this article interesting. Not much really from Daily Star, but this one from Financial Times was very interesting, right? The stuff that we like to talk about. So, system outage hits house sales and payments across UK and Europe. Problem affecting Swift network impacted high value and time sensitive transactions. So, as you can see, it's stating the Swift network. Now, we know when it comes to the Swift network, they they're really trying to do with it away with it. So these are kind of things now, like it's been impacted, so they look at ways, and it's all set in stone, but now it gives them an opportunity to go back to like some kind of mitigation risks and do a risk analysis and say, you know what, this is what kind of happened, and now let's lead more into crypto, more into digital assets, more into blockchain networks and hashgraph networks that we can implement, so things can be on blockchain for time sensitive transactions, because transactions, when it comes to the ledger, it's much more stored. It doesn't go away. Now, being impacted in this manner in Swift really does create that volatility, and does create chaos. But if you have it in some kind of ledger or time sensitive transactions in a ledger, it makes it much more efficient to work with, and all that other good stuff that comes with it very well. So let's get more, right. So it talks about house purchases and big UK and European were disrupted. This started from Thursday after an outage at the Swift International cross-border payment system that lasted for several hours. Now, what we can see is by this statement, when the banks go back, they're going to kind of use this argument about the Swift International cross-border payments, just to leverage things. As you see, it's got we're going into the next press where it talks about the Bank of England. And the Bank of England has been working with Ripple for a long time. Uh, and Barclays have been working with Ripple, so they have that partnerships in place and quote unquote other partnerships, as well as Digital Pound Foundation, and those are the good stuff that comes with it. Uh, and then they say the global payments issue, the central banking's CHAP service. You guys know what CHAP service? If you're not sure, it is a payment system similar to how Swift is, but it's much more not so complicated as the Swift system, right? You can Google that and check that out. Very interesting. I just have to revisit that for myself as well, right? So it talks about the European Central Bank. Now we know the BOE and the European Central Bank has been coming to South Africa, having meetings with other countries in terms of the G20 and stuff like changing markets with you know uh, digital assets and stable coins, as they mentioned. And you see there's some agents, but let's go in to highlight this, right? The SWIFT, which facilitates cross-border payments between banks, said its statement on Thursday it experienced an operational incident by delaying the processing service, adding this was not caused by cyber attack. Yes, it's definitely not a cyber attack. I would say it's more of an inside attack. Basically, something because you can't really quote unquote everything is designed by plan, right? They pushed an update out which was done in production. Normally, when it comes to certain updates, you would do a test. You would do it in a sandbox before you make it go live. And with this particular thing that happened uh, with CrowdStrike and stuff, I never see anything about a sandbox. It was just a file being pushed and deployed, which should be done in a sandbox for that matter. So this was kind of planned in a way because if you don't put something in a sandbox, and this is what happens, right? Uh, and sometimes some things can be deployed in the sandbox, and mishaps happen as well when they do go live, just because sometimes the sandbox might not really be testing the water so much. Uh, like there's certain systems they go live, people use them, and then you start seeing because of that usage and stuff, you start getting those malfunctions, if I have to say, right? That you get with that. Now they do say they're going to do a fully is conducting a full investigation and apologizes for the disruption. Now, what happens when an investigation happens like this? That's when it comes back to a mitigation risk analysis. Now, that's where you're going to get stuff like SIEM, which is system security incident event management. Now, what the security incident event management is going to do is they're going to put that plan together, that constructive plan, where what is that? The ITIL then comes in, and then they go with their part for payments, and then that's done. Then it's passed on to the next thing, which is the confidentiality, integration, availability. They look into all of those stuff. Then it goes to management. Then they have the assets, the softwares behind it, and then they go like, okay, since this happened, let's go ahead. We're gonna do this. We have this in the sandbox. Let's go ahead and kind of deploy this, and then you're going to deploy that. But when that does happen, that's when you're going to see the real changes. But this was just one of, I would say, this was this first strike. CrowdStrike was kind of the first strike in an event that's leading up to a major change that's going to be down the road very soon. The ECB was impacted now. The ECB is big, and the ECB has been talking about crypto, and they've been talking about uh, the Ripple system doing away with Swift so they can have easier cross-border payments. Now, bear you that Ripple is not the only software. There's R3 Corda, there's XDC, Zinfin, there's the Dara Hashgraph, there's Algorand, there's other there's a lot of other networks that come in together to play, but the main role will be that liquidity hub with the Ripple, right? But behind those other, they are other projects or other chains, side chains, all of those good stuff that makes the network to be more stabilized, to take on more time sensitive transactions, and making sure the product is much better. And then the CHAPS automated system has been managed since its 35 direct participating banks are supervised by the payment system regulators as they talk about the transactions. And if you've seen some stuff with CHAPS and FedNow and how they will be doing the ISO 20022, you'd know how far we've come. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, my input on how to share and where this would lead to in the financial states of the economy and further with blockchain technology, guys. And thank you for watching the video. I hope you have an awesome afternoon. Cheers, guys.